We have so much more coming up in the next hour. Our sign language interpreter is William Silla. Now, the Kenya National Association of Parents has threatened to go to court if public secondary school head teachers enforce inflated school fees, some of which are up to 50% above what the government recommended. The association released school fee structures that showed huge disparities between the ceilings put by the government and the new levies. But first, the parents are seeking an audience with President Uhuru Kenyatta over the matter.
If the latest school fee structures released by most school heads are anything to go by, then parents have a huge task ahead of them. School fee circulars released by various public secondary schools indicate that you could be paying up to 50% more on fees this year. The revelation coming as a shock to many parents who were hoping that the 2015 education circular that gave guidelines on fee structure would help reduce the growing burden of increased school fees. According to the circular released by then Education Cabinet Secretary Professor Jacob Kaimenyi, no parent who has a child in public day school was to pay more than 9,374 shillings per year. Under the same circular, all students in boarding school were to pay only 53,553 shillings yearly. This after the government subsidy of 12,870 shillings for every child. But it appears that directive was only effective on paper. School heads have since gone above and beyond the set guidelines. In Pangani Girls High School, for instance, parents who have children joining Form 1 will be required to part with 59,253 shillings this year, with 27,000 shillings required during the first term alone. A further 2,000 shillings for Form 1s and 1,000 shillings for Form 2s, 3s and 4s has been levied each term for, quote, tea and hot water. Sironga Girls High School in Nyamira County will have parents parting with not less than 45,796 shillings in just first term alone. 2,300 shillings per child per term is expected for, quote, bus maintenance and insurance. School heads appearing to ignore the earlier circular, and the country's Parents Association is angry.
Who is in charge of education? Because as far as we are concerned, I don't see anybody who has grip of education in this country. And ladies and gentlemen, it is pathetic that schools are being left in the hands of few mercenaries. I should call them mercenaries. People who are ruthless, who don't care about the fate of children, people who don't care. They are just there to make sure that education in this country is made impossible.
Most of the increased charges are seen as levies for activities that are either catered for by the Ministry of Education or some of which have been scrapped. In Ngea Girls High School, which has its annual fee capped at 77,575 shillings, parents will have to part with a further 3,500 shillings per child for, quote, supplementary tuition. Yet, the government had already banned secondary school tuition.
That is madness in this country, ladies and gentlemen. And that's why, as an association, we feel that the government is failing in stamping the authority. Because so a school cannot go out of their way to introduce a fees of their own choice.
The bloated figures coming at a time when parents are struggling with a high cost of living.
Gharama ya maisha imeenda juu. Tunaomba serikali kaweze kutusaidia kama wazazi.
Kama nini hizi public schools. Watupunguzie nini school fees kidogo.
The Kenya National Association of Parents wants the Education CS Fred Matiang'i to take action against school heads who have raised their fees.
Section 92 of the Act, Basic Education Act Section 92, it makes it a criminal offense for any person in the Republic of Kenya who defies the law to be arrested and charged in a court of law and be imprisoned for 1 year or a fine of 200,000. We have not seen any principle going there. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a disaster.
They insist that they will write a letter to the CS on Monday requesting to meet with the President Uhuru Kenyatta over the matter. Timothy Otieno, KTN News.
Off to some politics now, and CORD leader Raila Odinga hit out at Deputy President William Ruto for what he called using Harambes and generous donations to woo the western region into Jubilee. Speaking in Bukura, Kakamega County, Raila also questioned the Deputy President's lifestyle. Dorcas Wangira reports from Kakamega.
Mambo ya kuku. Ati mtu analisha kuku, anataka kuchinja. Anatotoa, anachukua mahindi, sio? Alafu anasema kut. Kuku anasema leo hii jamani mkarimu zaidi. Amenikumbuka. Akija karibu namna hii ananaswa. Unasikia kwe.
The CORD leader is referring to this recent donation, a series of many others in Western Kenya, and the defection of a section of Western region leaders allied to UDF, ODM, the Amani National Congress, to Jubilee, and the development projects the Jubilee government has been promising to deliver in the region. It's not the first time he's touching a sensitive nerve. He has been calling for a lifestyle audit on the deputy president.
Barabara yenu ya kutoka hapa Lurambi, pitia hapa Batoto, kwenda Manyala, kwenda mpaka ile Musikoma ama ngambo ile. Hiyo barabara hiyo mpaka Banyala ile, hiyo barabara mimi niliwaambia tutaweka lami.
Mimi natoa pesa, na hiyo pesa mimi natoa wapi? Muwe mashahidi yangu, mwambie huyu jamaa amekuwa akitoa pesa ya kanisa tangu tumuone. Hata miaka sio ya kwanza, ameanza jana.
Sasa yeye anakuja na hiyo pesa, uliza hiyo pesa anapata wapi? Kama pesa ya matibabu hakuna, na kampuni hana kampuni ambayo unaweza kusema ametoka kwa kampuni hii au kampuni hii. Maendeleo ambayo iko ambayo inaendeleza ni ile ambayo ilianzishwa na serikali ya Grand Coalition Government ambayo tulianza na Kibaki.
Kakamega Governor Wycliffe Oparanya doesn't subscribe to the "if you can't beat them, join them" principle.
Mimi hata nimechoka. Kila siku, Jumamosi, Jumapili, Jubilee wako hapa. Hata nilijaribu kuwafuata kama governor ni wa welcome, mpaka nikachoka. Wanatoa milioni, mimi nikitoa shilingi 1,100 wanasema sasa na mimi nitatoa wapi pesa ya kufuata watu kila saa.
But when it came to the big D for the past defections and the Senate summons that have troubled him end last year, he differed with Senator Boni Halwale and Bungoma Senator Moses Wetangula.
Ruto has every right kuzungumza na kiongozi yeyote wa jamii yetu. But the truth is, in Luhyaland today, ukitaka kuzungumza na Waluhya, utuheshimu.
Watu wetu, mambo ya Jubilee, musidanganywe mupoteze kura zenu.
Mimi nimekuwa waziri, I've appeared before Auditor General, I've appeared before Parliament. Yani saa hii ndio itakuwa Senate na naokopa. Kwa nini?
A year shy of 2017, the rhetoric here is already full swing. One thing is clear though between Jubilee and CORD: sometimes it's not always whoever pays the piper that will be calling the tune. Dorcas Wangira, KTN News, Bukura, Kakamega.
Now, transport was paralyzed for hours at Suswa along the Maimahir Narok Road after area residents blocked the road to protest against the killing of 9 of their cattle knocked down by a speeding bus. Marumi Mwangi describes the drama that followed.
The wrath of angry Maasai herders. And on this day, motorists along the busy Narok-Kisii highway witnessed it firsthand. And this traffic jam was the costly price that motorists had to pay after a speeding matatu said to belong to a popular bus company knocked dead 9 cows along the busy highway Saturday morning. Residents blocked the road at Suswa, demanding compensation for their livestock, and anybody who attempted to talk them down got it rough.
It's been 5 hours that I'm here stuck. I have a flight at 9 o'clock. And I don't know how will I catch my flight.
From 12 tumefika hapa, tumepata barabara wamebarricade. But we have kids, we are suffering actually. Wote wako ndani, the whole family. So we are wondering, na basi imefanya hiyo problem ni moja, why can they release us?
Na sisi tunasema hatuendi hapa mpaka tunapata suluhisho, mpaka alipe ng'ombe yetu.
And the chaos and drama were not about to end anytime soon, as the congestion built up on both sides of the road, stretching for up to 50 kilometers, while some with personal cars opted to park by the roadside, hoping for the resolution of the standoff.
Nimeomba serikali dakika hii watu watoke Nairobi, hata kama ni ma-AP, hata kama ni JSU, wakuje saa hii wasaidie watu. KDF waone hii. Mimi najua watu wananiona kwenye runinga. Na tafadhali watume watu wakuje wasaidie sisi, manake watu ni wengi.
Na hiyo ng'ombe alikuwa anatoka kwa maji. Kwa hivyo hiyo jamaa alikuwa amekanyanga tu hiyo ng'ombe kwa madharau. Kwa sababu alikuwa hiyo watu wamesoea kukanyanga mang'ombe na mambusi hapa. Hata watu ya mapikipiki alikuwa anakanyanga tu.
But, well, not everybody was having a bad time here. The traffic jam was just the perfect opportunity. These business people needed to sell their snacks for the hungry motorists as the standoff persisted. Muremi Mwangi, KTN News, Nairobi.
Now back to some politics, and Machakos County Governor Dr. Alfred Mutua has sensationally claimed that his political opponents have set aside 56 million shillings to scandalize his administration and shut down his agenda to transform lives in Ukambani. At the same time, Mutua asked the opposition leadership to stop politicking and give President Uhuru Kenyatta space to deliver on his pledges to Kenyans. And as Patrick Amimo reports, though Mutua was elected on a Wiper Democratic Party movement ticket, the governor has sharply differed with his party leader and CORDCO principal Kalonzo Musyoka.
Machakos Stadium is where Governor Dr. Alfred Mutua held a near public rally and officially launched Maendeleo Chap-Chap movement in what seems to be shaping up of a supremacy battle for Ukambani votes between him and CORDCO principal Kalonzo Musyoka ahead of the 2017 general elections.
Today, I stand here to announce the launch of Maendeleo Chap-Chap movement. Maendeleo Chap-Chap movement is a national movement, a socio-political movement embracing on a foundation that says inawezekana na itawezekana.
Governor Mutua was elected on an opposition ticket, Wiper Democratic Movement Party. However, on assuming office, Mutua decided to work closely with the Jubilee administration against the wishes of his sponsoring party leadership, led by CORDCO principal Kalonzo Musyoka. Mutua claims his political opponents are envious of his development agenda and are scheming to bring him down, but he maintains he will not be cowed.
You know, there are some people who get sick when they hear of what I have achieved with Maendeleo Chap-Chap. Milioni 56.5 zimepeanwa zijaribu kumchimbia Dr. Alfred Mutua chini. Na hao hawafahamu ya kwamba mimi ni mbegu. Ukinichimbia chini ndio ninanawiri.
But speaking in Kilonzo village, Nzambani sub-county, Kitui County, during the burial of the late Tabitha Siomiti, stepmother to Kitui East Member of Parliament Marcus Muluvi, Wiper Democratic Movement leader Kalonzo Musyoka responded to some of the attacks leveled against the opposition by Governor Mutua.
His party will meet and here in the public just assess what it is that he has decided to do. What, however, you can quote me on is on the 16th of this month, a Wiper Democratic Movement leadership will be having a leaders meeting in Machakos, and by that time I think issues will have become clear. If indeed the governor has left the party, fine. If one leaves the party, then the best thing is to run, to call for a by-election.
We'll celebrate. Mutua criticized the opposition leadership for allegedly being obsessed with politics of mudslinging and insults at the expense of development. He wants the opposition to give President Uhuru Kenyatta and his Jubilee administration time to deliver on their pledges.
Uhuru is facing similar challenges to my small ones in Machakos. corruption, lethargy, poor workmanship, excuses, name it. However, he has set his agenda, and we have to give him a chance to carry out his agenda. And then we can hold him to task on what he told us he's going to do to us. However, in Kenya, with the rhetoric, you would think elections are actually this coming week.
The governor says time has come for Kenyans to make their leaders accountable through transformative development agenda.
Lazima sasa wananchi tuweke ile inaitwa scorecard. Unamuuliza mheshimiwa wako, wewe kabla hujafungua mdomo umefanya nini? Maybe our leaders need to be put on performance contracts so that there is accountability. Ulisema utafanya, umefika wapi? And then we make decisions to choose our leaders depending on what they have done, not how much noise, not how much dancing, not how much insults, not how much karate wamecheza.
The Machakos County Governor Dr. Alfred Mutua has officially launched his Maendeleo Chak movement. He says he will not be distracted by political leaders opposed to his agenda of ensuring that youth and women in the county are empowered. Patrick Amimo, KTN News, Machakos County.
Now, mystery surrounds the circumstances leading to the deaths of 5 teenagers in a road accident at Nakuru's Salga stage yesterday. It has emerged that the ill-fated vehicle belongs to a local administration police officer which hired teens. I beg your pardon, let me take that again. Mystery surrounds the circumstances leading to the deaths of 5 teenagers in a road accident at Nakuru Salga yesterday. Now, it has emerged that the ill-fated vehicle belongs to a local administration police officer and was hired to the teens under unclear circumstances. As Kamche Menza reports, none of the teenagers possessed a driving license.
The family of Patrick Kariuki grieves the loss of their firstborn son, Brian Kariuki, who has died at 17. He had informed his parents that he will join his colleagues at a party a few kilometers away from his home.
Yes, I had my permission to go to a place I knew, but wherever they were going at the time of the accident, I didn't have any information on that. And also, I've never taken him to a driving school. I've never shown how to drive a vehicle.
Peter Chege, father to the late Kevin Chege, who took the driving task amongst his colleagues, says he is shocked as his son Kevin Chege had not even completed his driving test. Parents to 16-year-old Bill Kamau, who also died in the accident, say their son left with only 100 shillings. He had requested for permission to attend a night church service, and that the news of his death is still a big shock.
Why are you selling beer to our children? These are underage. Watu wafikiria, I've lost a son I'll never get. I've lost a thing that no one can ever pay.
But worst of all is how all the underage 8 occupants of the Toyota Ipsum managed to hire the car and even take a night ride along the busy highway with none possessing legal documents.
Gari sio langu. I made to understand that that vehicle belonged to a police officer in Joro.
Where are the ethics ya maafisa wetu? Watoto wetu wamekufa painful death kwa sababu ya carelessness of our officers. Wakitoka Nakuru ndio wafike Salga ama warudi kutoka Salga. Where were the officers? Wale wanastahili kuwa kilinda usalama. Where were the alcohol bros wenye wanatushika other times?
Julius Kioko, the police officer, acknowledged to own this car that has a foreign registration. He, however, denied hiring it out to the teenagers. Nakuru County Police Commander Hassan Barua says he has directed the officer to record a statement as they launch investigations. Kamche Menza, KTN News, Nakuru County.
7 cancer cases have been reported in Marsabit County during an ongoing cancer screening exercise in Kor and Kargi. The screening exercise being conducted by Marsabit health professionals working outside the county comes barely months after KTN News exclusively carried a story titled Desert of Death, highlighting the despair of cancer patients in the county who have been grappling with the disease they know little about. During the screening exercise, other diseases as high blood pressure and diabetes were reported. The patients will be transferred to Nairobi for treatment. However, area residents are now asking the county government to provide them with clean drinking water to prevent them from taking water from contaminated sources.
In this county, and more specifically in Kargi Ward and Kor Ward, we've had reports about the spread of cancer and the level of awareness of our people. The many cases that have been reported and as has been covered in the media is that many people are dying of medical conditions that are being associated with cancer. And as professionals, we came up together and we decided to find out exactly what is it that we can do. In as much as we know that we cannot cure cancer, we thought that there is something that we can do in terms of prevention, in terms of health awareness.
Hiyo maji ya Gangisa, mali na kunywa mmekufa Gangisa. Sasa siku hiyo ni shida mpaka sisi na wacha. Hakuna mtu anakunywa zaidi. Sababu sina kuona iko shida ndani.
One of the things that is being attributed to this increase in cancer in our area is the oil exploration which was done some years ago. And but I think I cannot pinpoint that as the only cause of cancer. Normally, there are many factors that attribute to cancer formation.
Right, we want to take a short commercial break here on KTN Weekend Prime. Don't go away. When we come back, we have so many stories and why there's something positive for the tourism industry in Mombasa County. We'll tell you more about that coming up shortly. Don't go away. Welcome back to Weekend Prime. Thank you very much for staying with us. Now, the end of Christmas festivities has opened a chapter that most parents dread the most. That time of the year when parents have to put all stops to find money for back-to-school shopping. Well, despite it being a Saturday, parents and guardians came out in large numbers to shop in anticipation for the reopening of schools. However, many were left scratching their heads over the high cost of school items and anticipated fees.
We secured this copy of a sales receipt from one of the parents who had just shopped for school items from one of the outlets in the city. She had already spent over 28,000 shillings. Mind you, this does not include school fees for her 2 children still in primary school. In one of the bookshops on Latema Road in Nairobi, we caught up with other parents. And their lamentations on the high cost of sending students to school remained the same. A parent explains.
Karo imepanda sana. Imepanda by almost 50% from last years. Ukijaribu basari, CDF, watu ni wengi hata haisaidii sana.
For Catherine Muriuki, having a child in lower primary school has not made matters any easier. Her class 2 shopping is just as costly as the rest.
You're paying like over 15,000 and it's in class 2. The cost of books, it's also high too. I've already bought and it's over 7,000 now and I'm not yet done. So, yeah, things are tough.
Dennis Wekesa also resorted to early back-to-school shopping, hoping that things would be a bit cheaper. It turns out he was mistaken.
Last year was a bit, but this year sijaona improvement because I was told that nikinunua nitapewa discount. Lakini sijaona is expensive.
In other towns such as Eldoret, parents were forced to swallow the same bitter back-to-school expenses pill, and no option remained apart from digging deeper into their pockets to guarantee their children an education.
Sisi kwa mwananchi wa kawaida inakuwa ngumu. So tunaomba kama serikali wanaweza kutusaidia especially kwa upande wa fee. Kwa sababu ukiangalia maneno ya uniform na kadhalika hiyo ni kawaida, lakini mambo ya fee watusaidia kutupunguzia iende chini kidogo.
Holiday festivities are now over, and for most parents, it is time for back-to-school shopping. However, the anticipated rise in the cost of educational material and school fees might mean a very long January for most parents. Mark Namaswa, KTN News.
Well, the tough month is here, January. Some other people call it January. But of course, things will get much better as we go over this month. We take another short break. We'll be back. Don't go away. Welcome back. Now, today, the first cruise ship for the year 2016 docked at the port of Mombasa, carrying over 1,000 people. A total of 10 cruise ships are expected this year. John Juma tells us more from Mombasa.
Having sailed from Zanzibar, carrying over 600 passengers and over 400 crew members, totaling to over 1,000 people, the cruise ship Seven Seas Voyager made her way into Mombasa port, docking few minutes after 7 a.m. The Cabinet Secretary for Tourism, Najib Balala, and Principal Secretary for Tourism, Fatma Hirsi, were among the stakeholders who received the tourists.
The beauty about the cruise ship, the ripple effect, the supplier value chain is major, from water supply to vegetables to food stuff to security to service providers like the port to tourism providers. So it's not about just tourism, it's about an economy running, and this is what is required in Mombasa.
Today being just the second day of the year 2016, the vessel Seven Seas Voyager is the first cruise ship to dock in Mombasa this year. Cruise ship handlers in Kenya say they expect at least 10 ships to call in the port of Mombasa this year, an increase from last year where 6 cruise ships docked in the port city.
We're expecting to have, for the 2016, 9 cruises coming in, and we might be having an extra one to make it 10 over this period next year. So we expect, 2016 to be better than the year before, 2015, on the cruises. And what we are doing now in the marketing is we are trying to increase the calls, in that instead of having the day calls, we'll be having the overnight calls from next year, 2017 and 18 on the calls. Yeah.
Mombasa has been a popular port of call for cruise ships, and it's very competitive because these cruise ships only visit a few ports. They cannot visit all the ports in the world. So we are competing with many other ports, and they're looking at issues like safety, security, services, efficiency.
With improved security, political stability, and hope of total victory in the ongoing war against terrorism and piracy, players in the tourism sector are confident that tourism will create more jobs and will regain its position of being the second largest foreign exchange earner in the country.
It takes a lot of marketing to bring these cruises down here. It's not that they just make a call like that, because we do a lot of marketing to convince them to come to the Indian Ocean waters. Previously, because of the piracy, most of the cruises were never scheduled to come to on our waters.
We will jointly with Abercrombie and Kent attend the Miami Convention, the cruise ship Miami Convention in March 17th this year, to see how best we can encourage and bring more cruise ships in the region.
This is the first cruise ship docking in the port of Mombasa in the year 2016, an indication that tourism is getting back to its lost glory. John Juma, KTN News, the port of Mombasa.
Welcome back. Now, Kothbiro defending champions 1,000 Streets booked their place in this year's final by defeating Opitas through post-match penalties after the game ended in a 2-all draw. The Kaloleni-based team will face either Pumwani All-Stars or Headquarters, who meet in the second semi-final on Sunday.
It was dubbed final before the final as the two best teams from Eastlands faced off in the last 4 of the 39th edition of the annual Kothbiro tournament. Defending champions 1,000 Streets from Kaloleni locked horns with fans' favourite and 2010 champions Opitos at the Ziwani Stadium in Pumwani. The match lived up to its billing, with a number of Premier League players turning up for both teams. Mathare United striker Eric Mata brought the deadlock in the 27th minute to bag his 5th goal of the tournament. Both keepers were called into action before the break as the game exploded. Roy Siambu then doubled 1,000 Street's advantage when he added the second from a sublime free kick, but their celebrations were short-lived as Yobo pulled one back for Opitos. Opitos increased momentum, which finally paid off when Michael Kamadi squeezed one past Peter Odhiambo to level matters at the stroke of full time. The game had to be decided through post-match penalties, where 1,000 Streets emerged victorious, converting 4 spots as Opitos scored only 2. The second semi-final will see Pumwani All-Stars take on headquarters on Sunday. Abula Ahmed, KTN Sports.
Well, and that's where we wrap up KTN Weekend Prime tonight. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Betty Okari, and do have a lovely weekend, and see you next week, God willing.